Afghanistan, a land of rugged beauty, towering mountains pierce the sky, vast deserts stretch as far as the eye can see, but beneath this stark beauty lies a history soaked in blood. This is a land that has tasted invasion for millennia. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, the British Empire, all met their match in the unforgiving terrain and fierce warriors of Afghanistan. It's no wonder they call it the graveyard of empires. The Afghans are a proud and independent people. They are known for their resilience and their unwavering faith. They are also fiercely protective of their homeland. Throughout history, they have resisted invaders with every fiber of their being. They have fought tooth and nail to preserve their way of life. And they have earned a reputation as some of the most formidable warriors on the planet. But even the bravest warriors can grow weary of endless conflict. By the dawn of the 21st century, Afghanistan was a nation exhausted by decades of war. The Soviet invasion of the 1980s had left the country in ruins. A brutal civil war followed. The Taliban, a fundamentalist Islamic group, rose to power in the mid-1990s. They imposed their strict interpretation of Islamic law on the Afghan people. The world watched in horror as the Taliban unleashed their reign of terror. Women were stripped of their rights. Music and art were banned. Public executions became commonplace. Afghanistan, once a vibrant crossroads of cultures, became a closed and isolated nation. Little did we know that this troubled land, scarred by centuries of conflict, would soon become the epicenter of a new kind of war. A war that would pit the United States and its allies against an enemy unlike any they had faced before. An enemy born in the shadows of the Afghan mountains. The world changed forever on September 11, 2001. The horrific attacks on New York City and Washington, D.C. left America reeling. The images of the Twin Towers collapsing, the Pentagon in flames, and the wreckage of Flight 93 in a Pennsylvania field were seared into the minds of millions. The attacks were a stark reminder of the vulnerability of even the most powerful nation on Earth. They also unleashed a wave of fear and anger that would have far-reaching consequences. The United States, under the leadership of President George W. Bush, vowed to hunt down those responsible for the attacks and bring them to justice. The trail led to Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, a global terrorist network. Bin Laden, who had orchestrated the 9/11 attacks from his hideout in Afghanistan, was being sheltered by the Taliban regime. The stage was set for a confrontation that would have profound implications for both Afghanistan and the United States. The US government demanded that the Taliban hand over bin Laden. The Taliban refused. They claimed they had no hand in the 9/11 attacks, and that they did not even know if bin Laden was in Afghanistan. This was a lie. The Taliban and al-Qaeda were closely linked. Bin Laden had even married one of his daughters to the son of Taliban leader Mullah Omar. The US was not buying the Taliban's denials. The US was determined to hold bin Laden accountable for his crimes, and the US was prepared to use any means necessary to achieve that goal. On October 7, 2001, just weeks after the 9/11 attacks, the US launched Operation Enduring Freedom. The first salvos of the war were airstrikes against Taliban and al-Qaeda targets in Afghanistan. These strikes were followed by the deployment of US Special Forces and CIA paramilitary officers. Their mission to work with Afghan opposition groups to topple the Taliban regime and capture or kill Osama bin Laden. The US invasion of Afghanistan had begun. The first American boots on the ground in Afghanistan belonged to the elite soldiers of the US Special Operations Command. These highly trained warriors, drawn from units like Delta Force and SEAL Team 6, were tasked with some of the most dangerous missions of the war. They operated in small, highly mobile teams, often behind enemy lines. Their objectives were shrouded in secrecy, their exploits rarely acknowledged publicly. One such team, callsign Viper, was inserted into the remote Kandahar province in southern Afghanistan. This desolate region, a labyrinth of towering mountains and arid valleys, was a Taliban stronghold. Viper's mission, to link up with Afghan anti-Taliban fighters, establish a forward operating base, and gather intelligence on Taliban and al-Qaeda movements. Their success or failure could have a significant impact on the early stages of the war. The team, comprised of seasoned operators with years of experience in some of the world's most dangerous hotspots, was led by a battle-hardened captain known for his tactical acumen and unwavering resolve. They were equipped with the latest technology and weaponry, their every move monitored by satellites and drones high above. Yet despite their advanced training and equipment, They were about to step into a world of shadows and whispers, where ancient legends and modern-day horrors intertwined. They were walking into the heart of darkness. The team's journey into Kandahar was fraught with danger. They navigated treacherous mountain passes, their movements concealed by the rugged terrain. They dodged Taliban patrols and avoided detection by enemy spies. Their every sense was on high alert, their fingers never far from their triggers. They knew that one wrong move, one moment of complacency, could spell disaster. They were surrounded by an enemy that knew the terrain intimately, an enemy that could strike without warning, an enemy that seemed to melt into the shadows. Section 4. The Vanishing. Days turned into weeks as Viper Team moved deeper into Kandahar province. They established contact with local anti-Taliban forces, forging alliances with men who had been fighting the Taliban for years. They gathered valuable intelligence on Taliban positions, supply routes and training camps. They relayed this information back to command, providing crucial insights that helped shape the US war effort. But as Viper Team ventured further into the remote reaches of Kandahar, something strange began to happen. Their communications with headquarters became increasingly erratic. Their radio signals would be lost for hours at a time, only to return as abruptly as they had vanished. Their reports became more fragmented, their messages filled with an unsettling urgency. It was as if a dark cloud had descended upon them, isolating them from the outside world. Then, silence. Complete and utter silence. Viper Team vanished without a trace. Their last known position, a remote valley deep within the mountains, provided no clues as to their fate. Search and rescue missions, hampered by the difficult terrain and the ever-present threat of Taliban ambushes, turned up nothing. The soldiers of Viper Team were gone, swallowed whole by the Afghan wilderness. The disappearance of Viper Team sent shockwaves through the US military. How could a team of highly trained Special Forces soldiers equipped with the best technology the US had to offer simply vanish? Theories abounded. Some whispered that they had been captured by the Taliban, their fates unknown. Others speculated that they had been betrayed by their Afghan allies, sold out to the enemy for a fistful of cash. Still, others clung to the hope that they were still alive, evading capture in the vast and unforgiving Afghan wilderness. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the grim reality began to set in. Viper Team was gone, and the mystery of their disappearance threatened to haunt the war in Afghanistan for years to come. Section 5. Seeking Answers in the Sand. The disappearance of Viper Team sent ripples of concern through the US command. The loss of such an experienced and well-equipped team was a blow, both operationally and morally. The top brass demanded answers. A second Special Forces team, designated Nomad, was assembled and tasked with the daunting mission of uncovering the fate of their fallen comrades. Nomad was comprised of hardened veterans, handpicked for their tracking skills and combat experience. Their mission was shrouded in secrecy, their objectives known only to a select few within the upper echelons of the military. Armed with advanced technology and a burning desire for answers, Nomad Team touched down in the dead of night near Viper's last known location. The Afghan night sky, devoid of light pollution, twinkled with a million stars, a stark contrast to the darkness that had enveloped their predecessors. The team moved with the stealth of ghosts, their senses heightened, their every step calculated. The weight of their mission, the search for their lost brothers in arms, pressed down on them. They scoured the desolate landscape, their eyes scanning for any sign, any clue that could lead them to Viper Team. The silence of the Afghan wilderness was unnerving, broken only by the crunch of their boots on the parched earth and the distant howl of a lone wolf. Days bled into weeks as Nomad Team meticulously investigated Viper's last known whereabouts. They uncovered fragments of equipment, remnants of a firefight, whispers from local villagers who spoke of strange lights and terrifying roars echoing through the valleys. Each piece of evidence, like shards of a shattered mirror, offered a glimpse into the terrifying truth, but the complete picture remained elusive. The deeper they ventured into the Afghan wilderness, the more they realized they weren't just searching for their lost comrades, they were stepping into a mystery as old as the mountains themselves.